In 1815, a boy was born who would reshape the future of Europe and the map of Germany itself. His name was Otto von Bismarck, and in his early years, few could have predicted the towering political figure he would become. He wasn't a soldier on the battlefield or a charismatic leader in the public eye. Instead, he was a quietly ambitious young man in the midst of a divided and fractured Germany, destined to become the master strategist who would unite the German states and, in the process, change the course of history. Before Otto von Bismarck became the Iron Chancellor, who united Germany through war and diplomacy, his path to power was shaped by a series of formative experiences that set the foundation for his political career. His early years reveal much about the mindset that drove him to manipulate events and masterfully navigate Europe's shifting political alliances. Bismarck's journey was not one of heroism or idealism, but of pragmatism and cold calculation. His understanding of power dynamics, his disillusionment with liberalism, and his reverence for monarchy would guide his actions during the crucial decades that led to Germany's unification. In this video, we will explore the early life of Otto von Bismarck, his upbringing, education, and first steps into politics, focusing on the key events that shaped his view of the world and his future role in European history. Bismarck's early career and life experiences were the critical precursors to his actions in the coming decades, and while the wars that united Germany are often remembered for their violence, it is Bismarck's strategic mind and deep-rooted beliefs formed in his early years that were the true driving forces. In our next video, we will examine how Bismarck took the lessons from his early life and applied them to engineer the wars that created the German Empire. At the time of Bismarck's birth, Germany did not exist as a unified nation-state. Instead, the region we now recognize as Germany was a patchwork of independent kingdoms, duchies, and city-states. These German-speaking territories were loosely connected through the German Confederation, a diplomatic and military alliance created after the Napoleonic Wars. Austria, the dominant power in Central Europe, was the driving force behind the Confederation, but a growing sense of German nationalism began to take root, especially after the defeat of Napoleon. Still, the desire for a unified Germany was a distant ideal rather than a concrete goal, and the status quo seemed secure until change came with Bismarck's rise. Among the fractured German states, Prussia was emerging as a powerful force. By 1815, Prussia had been shaped by both its military tradition and a strong bureaucratic state. It was a kingdom led by a monarchy, with a well-organized army and an efficient administrative structure that made it a rising power in Europe. Prussia was, however, still dwarfed by Austria in terms of influence over the German-speaking territories. This tension between the two powers, Austria and Prussia, would play a key role in Bismarck's later maneuvers. Bismarck's formative years in this political climate helped shape his view of Prussia as the key to German unification, but only if it could wrest control from Austria. In this environment, Bismarck's future vision for a unified Germany would soon be realized, but not through peaceful diplomacy. His path would be forged through war and political cunning. Born in April 1815 to a noble family, Otto Eduard Leopold von Bismarck's early years were steeped in the values of the Prussian aristocracy. His father was a staunch conservative, deeply loyal to the Prussian monarchy and the military elite. His mother, on the other hand, came from a more progressive, intellectual family. This mixture of conservative values and intellectual stimulation would play a pivotal role in shaping Bismarck's complex worldview. Growing up in the rural estate of Schönhausen, Bismarck was exposed to the aristocratic values of duty, honor, and tradition. Yet, his environment was also a world in flux, as Europe's political landscape was changing after Napoleon's defeat. He was aware of the power struggles between monarchies, the emerging middle class, and the ongoing instability caused by revolutionary movements. Bismarck's education was reflective of his aristocratic background. His early schooling was rigorous, and he attended the prestigious University of Göttingen. It was here that Bismarck developed his first taste of politics, joining a conservative student fraternity. He was exposed to classical liberalism during his studies, but it was the conservative values of his family that resonated most with him. While at university, Bismarck's worldviews began to solidify. He viewed liberalism, which was gaining traction across Europe, with deep skepticism. The revolutions of 1848, which spread across Europe and sought to establish more democratic governments, only deepened his conviction that reform was dangerous and disruptive to the traditional order. In Bismarck's eyes, the preservation of monarchy and aristocracy was essential for Europe's stability. Bismarck's formal education in law and political science further fueled his interests in governance. By the time he completed his studies, Bismarck had a clear vision of how political and military systems operated and how they could be used to serve the interests of Prussia and the conservative elite. After completing his education, Bismarck entered the Prussian civil service, beginning his diplomatic career. In his early career, Bismarck was appointed to various posts within the Prussian administration. His first major diplomatic role came in 1847, when he was sent to represent Prussia at the German Confederation in Frankfurt. During this period, Bismarck began to build a reputation for being a shrewd political operator. While the revolutions of 1848 swept through Europe, Bismarck kept a keen eye on the developments and worked to ensure that Prussia's interests were safeguarded. His rise through the Prussian political ranks came with a strong belief in realpolitik, a political philosophy emphasizing practical and strategic action over idealism. Bismarck's early years in the Prussian government revealed a man with a talent for understanding political realities, manipulating situations to his advantage, and recognizing the need to balance power among European monarchies. The revolutions of 1848 were a defining moment in European history and Bismarck's political development. As a young man, Bismarck watched the revolutions unfold with a mixture of disdain and concern. The revolutions were sparked by a combination of economic crises, social unrest, and liberal demands for political change. In many parts of Europe, monarchies were overthrown or forced to make concessions, and the German Confederation was rocked by uprisings. While many liberals and intellectuals saw the revolutions as a chance for progress, Bismarck saw them as a grave threat to the established order. For him, the failure of the 1848 revolutions was proof that liberal ideals were impractical and would lead to chaos. In the aftermath of the revolutions, Bismarck grew increasingly disillusioned with the liberal political currents sweeping Europe. His response was to embrace conservatism, firmly aligning himself with monarchist and aristocratic ideals. The events of 1848 confirmed his belief that Germany needed strong, centralized leadership, preferably from Prussia, to navigate the volatile political landscape. In the 1850s, Bismarck's political career began to gain momentum. In 1851, he was appointed to the Prussian embassy in Frankfurt, where he was able to make connections with key figures within the Prussian court. By 1859, Bismarck was named Prussia's envoy to Russia, where his diplomatic skills were put to the test. He proved himself to be an effective and pragmatic diplomat, establishing relationships with key European powers, particularly Russia and France. Bismarck's time as envoy allowed him to observe European diplomacy firsthand, understanding the intricacies of alliances, treaties, and power struggles. His experience during this period was crucial for his future role in the unification of Germany. By the time Bismarck was appointed Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862, he had already established himself as a key player in European politics. His understanding of the complex power dynamics in Europe, combined with his conservative views, made him an ideal leader for Prussia at a time of political tension and unrest. Bismarck's early experiences had shaped his belief that Prussia, not Austria, should lead the unification of Germany. The lessons Bismarck learned during his early life, the importance of power, stability, and strong leadership, would guide him in the years to come. His growing influence within Prussia's government and his disillusionment with the liberal movements of Europe led him to embrace the idea that unification could only be achieved through decisive action, namely, through war. This vision would become the foundation of Bismarck's political strategy. Otto von Bismarck's early years set the stage for his later political career and his pivotal role in the unification of Germany. In our next video, we will dive into the pivotal role Bismarck played in orchestrating the wars that would lead to the unification of Germany, such as the Danish War, the Austro-Prussian War, and the Franco-Prussian War. From manipulating political alliances to using military force to accomplish his goals, Bismarck's strategy would forever change the political landscape of Europe. Stay tuned, like and subscribe as we continue down the road to destruction.